In today's world, we are getting more and more used to seeing computer-generated imagery, CGI, on the television or movie screen and even in magazines and newspapers. The field of computer graphics, CG, has grown from a haven for computer scientists to a mainstream career that many people would like to have. The leading computer graphics software package for use on a PC is 3D Studio Max. This book covers three-dimensional computer graphics and explains how to create images and animations with 3D Studio Max. Before you begin to learn this wonderful software package and all its intricacies, however, you need to learn the basic terminology and concepts behind the beautiful CGI scenes and imagery that surround us. This chapter explores the terminology and concepts behind computer graphics. In particular, this chapter covers defining 3D graphics, moving from 2D to 3D graphics, principles of 3D computer graphics in 3D Studio Max. Defining 3D graphics. Saying 3D means you are working with 3 dimensions, in other words, width, depth, and height. If you look around your room, everything you see is 3-dimensional, the chair, desk, building, plants, and even you. But, when you look at 3-dimensional computer graphics, calling them 3D is a distortion of the truth. In reality, 3D computer graphics are a 2-dimensional representation of a virtual 3-dimensional world. To help illustrate this, imagine that you have a video camera and are filming the room around you. As you move around the room, you encounter various 3D objects, but when you play back the video on your VCR, you are looking at a flat, 2-dimensional image that is representative of the 3D world you filmed a minute ago. The scene appears realistic, thanks to the lights, colors, and shadows that appear to give the scene life and 3-dimensional depth, even though it is, in fact, 2D. In computer graphics, objects exist only in the memory of the computer. They have no physical form, they are just mathematical formulas and little electrons running around. Because the objects don't exist outside the computer, the only way to record them is to add more formulas to represent the lights and cameras. Fortunately for you, 3D Studio Max, often referred to as just Max, takes care of the mathematical side of things, enabling you to explore the artistic side. Figure 1.1 shows you 3D Studio Max with a 3D scene loaded. Figure 1.1 3D Studio Max with a scene loaded. In many ways, using a program such as 3D Studio Max is much like videotaping a room full of objects that you construct. Max enables you to design the room and its contents, using a variety of basic 3D objects such as cubes, spheres, cylinders and cones that you can select and add to the scene. Max also gives you the necessary tools such as patch modeling or NURBS to create more complex objects. For 3D Studio Max, 3 fundamentals. After you have created and positioned all of the objects in the scene, you can choose from a library of predefined materials and textures such as plastic, wood, or stone and apply them to the objects. You can also create your own materials through 3D Studio Max's material editor, in which you can control color, shininess, and transparency, or even use painted or scanned images to make surfaces appear any way you like. After you have added materials to the scene, you can create a camera to record and view the scene. By adjusting the settings of the virtual camera, you can create wide-angle effects or zoom in on a small detail. Correct positioning of cameras always adds to the drama or realism of the scene. Max provides camera objects with real-world controls you can use to create the views you are looking for in your scene. To further the realism of the scene, you can add lighting. With Max, you can add several different kinds of lights and define their properties, such as their color or brightness. By positioning the lights in the scene, you can control how the objects are illuminated and how they cast shadows into the scene and onto other objects. Then, you can bring the scene to life by moving the objects themselves, as well as the lights and cameras. You can make objects move mechanically or appear to take on human characteristics. You can use filmmaking techniques to tell a story with your animation, or simply create something that looks cool. Finally, you can render the animation to videotape or a digital video file so you can view the finished results and share them with others. Using 3D Studio Max, you can create just about anything you can imagine and then use it as a portfolio piece, a portion of a computer game, a scene from a science fiction epic, or any number of other possibilities. The possibilities are limitless with Max at your side. Moving from 2D to 3D graphics. Working with Max can be frustrating if you don't have a solid handle on the principles and theories you're using. Although the theory is not as interesting as working with Max itself, understanding the theory now will save you time and trouble later. The easiest way to start is with a look at how 2D and 3D skills overlap. If you have any past experience with 2D programs such as AutoCAD or Illustrator, you can make good use of what you already know about making objects such as rectangles or circles, called shapes in Max. The main difference between 2D and 3D is depth. 2D drawings have only height and width, with no depth whatsoever. A 2D object can be drawn to look like it's in 3D, but if you want to change the perspective or viewpoint in any way, you have to redraw the object from scratch. Figure 1.2 illustrates this. Chapter 1, 3D Graphics and Animation Fundamentals 5. Figure 1.2 2D drawing programs can be used to create images that look 3D, but if you want to view the object from a different perspective, you have to draw it again. Because objects have depth, at least in the virtual world, you only have to draw them once. Then, you can view them from any angle or perspective without starting from scratch. When you have a view of the objects in the scene, you can apply materials and lighting. At this point, Max automatically calculates highlight and shadow information for the scene, based on how you arrange the objects and lighting. See Figure 1.3. When using Max, not only can you redraw your subject from any angle you choose, but Max can also create a painting, called a rendering in CG terms, of the scene, based on the colors, textures, and lighting you decided on when you built the model. With all of these benefits, it's no wonder many artists rarely go back to traditional drawing and painting after they get into 3D. 6 3D Studio Max 3 Fundamentals. A. B. Figure 1.3. After you construct an object in 3D Studio Max, you can give it color and texture, light it, and then render it from any angle. Although major differences exist between 2D and 3D, many of the 2D drawing tools you might be familiar with are implemented in Max as well. Tools such as line, arc, circle and polygon are available and used in much the same way as in an illustration program. The difference is that instead of using them to create a finished shape in a 2D environment, you use these tools as a starting point for creating a 3D object. Some of the most common 3D forms that start with a 2D shape are lofts, sweeps, lathes and extrudes. Objects such as wine glasses, bananas, phone handsets, and many others are constructed with these methods. Actually constructing these types of objects is covered later in this book. What's important at this time is to remember that they rely on 2D techniques. Although 2D programs make use of layers to separate objects and organize their drawings, Max makes use of a powerful object naming scheme whereby each object in the scene has a distinct name. Object naming in Max applies to 2D objects as well as 3D and is combined with advanced display controls as well as groups to accomplish the same